My ex-wife thought I owned our apartment, but after the divorce, I had to reveal it was a rental. Now she's furious and calling me a liar. Back in 2008, when I started university, I rented a 2-bedroom apartment with my first ex-girlfriend at the time and my friend and his girlfriend. We got a great deal for it, as the owner of the place lost her job because of everything that happened back then, and decided to try her luck abroad where she still lives. Years went by, and after university my friend and his girlfriend decided to find a place of their own. As we had full-time jobs, renting this apartment together did not seem expensive anymore, and it also didn't seem costly to rent alone after we broke up some time later. So there I was, alone in a 2-bedroom apartment in the central part of the city. The owner decided she was too lazy to mess with bills and stuff every month and made arrangements for me to pay everything directly. As I earned her trust, I still pay her monthly rent, which is very cheap for today, and deal with everything else having her authorization. Because of the perfect location, my second bedroom was basically free BB for my friends who didn't live in the city, and I didn't mind. It's good to have company if you live alone. In 2020, I met a girl who was in a rush to get married, and as I was madly in love we did in 2021. For some reason I never told her how I rented the place or that it was a rental at all. It just never came up. I've been so used to being an authorized representative with building cooperative things etc. that I refer to it as my place. Our relationship started to cool down and we discovered that we weren't perfect for each other. So divorce was. So we did the paperwork for divorce and she's moving out. A few days ago, I received an email from her with a real estate valuation document as an attachment. While I was not at home, she wasted your $500 for someone to evaluate an apartment that doesn't belong to us and wrote that I probably have to take a loan to pay her the 50% of that. I told her, didn't I ever tell her this place is a rental? Why does she even assume I can afford a 2-bedroom apartment in the city center? She knows where I work and how much I earn. She called and screamed at me that I'd lied to her for years and hid the fact that the apartment was rental. Then she told me she would take the car as we got that together. And I was quiet for a moment, and then told her, you know that's a lease, right? The owner of the car is the bank. Then she demanded that I pay for the valuation and I replied, I didn't ask you to do it. She called me an idiot and ended the call. Of course she told our whole friend group how I lied to her during the whole marriage. There was a discussion in a messenger group with friends about whether it was a lie or not, whether it was a lie or not. Whether it was an idiot thing to do. Some agreed with me and some with her. So, am I the idiot for not telling my ex-wife that we lived in a rental apartment? Edit, we live in Finland. She did cover about 50% of the utility bills, as she wanted to contribute, and it was no secret that I'd been living there for a very long time. I just never spelt it out that this is a rental. I think she assumed I owned it because we did some maintenance there together that you normally don't do in a rental. Changed the wallpaper in the living room, and got a few appliances when the old ones broke down. Wait. So she didn't contribute to the rent or supposed mortgage. She effectively stayed for free and only paid half of the utilities. I guess that's fine for a premarital property for which you alone are on the deed. But the audacity to expect half? It sounds like she already profited off the apartment. I really enjoy it when greedy people get nothing. Not the idiot, and thanks for sharing. I wonder why she was in such a rush to get married. Was her plan all along to get married, and then take you for half of everything after a couple of years? Also getting the evaluation behind your back. Although I guess a real gold digger would have done that earlier. So then she would know what they were getting. OP, I'm sorry, this is technically not funny. But I laughed so much when she tried to get half of the apartment, failed, then tried to get the car and you just dropped. That's a rental. She tried so hard, poor thing. Still, I am in awe at how little OP thinks before he acts. He got married to someone he only knew for a year. Even the way he organized his thoughts here seemed kind of carefree and laid back. I ended up in a 2-bedroom apartment alone. There was a girl she wanted to get married. So we got married. We weren't perfect for each other. So we got a divorce. Whoops, I didn't tell her it was a rental. How did that happen? Anyway, she's angry. She brought it to a chat with our friends. What do you guys think? Bro, you're so lucky. It genuinely sounds like she was trying to rob you of half your crap. I, 29 female, gave birth to my daughter, Sloan, a few months ago. My husband, 30 male. And I didn't announce her name until she was born. The reason for this is that I knew my family didn't like the name Sloan and would spend their time trying to talk us out of the name. I know this because I started loving the name Sloan when I was a kid. There was a girl in my class from 1st to 3rd grade and I told my family at the time I thought her name was really cool. They told me it wasn't and my parents said it wasn't even a real name. I brought it up a few times. But I remember the negativity. I even remember my mom pitying her because of it. When I was 14, she even brought her up and told me she bet Sloan was going by her middle name or a nickname. By then, she moved schools after 3rd grade, so I didn't see her. When I was 16, one of my friends transferred schools after a move. She mentioned that Sloan was in her class and still used Sloan. I rubbed it into my mom's face so hard. But she told me it was still an ugly name, and she felt bad for the girl who had to have it as her name. My parents prefer names like Anna, James, Elizabeth, William, and Hannah, which are my siblings and my names. They think those are sophisticated, classic, and easy to use throughout life. They don't think Sloane's a kid's name, just not a real name and so ugly. I was lucky that my husband loved the name, and when we talked baby names, he said we could name our daughter Sloane. He also knew how my family felt, so he was on board with keeping the name for us until our daughter was here. You might think that the name being official and on the birth certificate would deter any negativity about the name. But since my daughter's name was announced, my family has wanted to sit and discuss the name. They said they never believed I would seriously carry on and name my daughter Sloane. I shut them down and told them I did, and that was that. I have refused to discuss it more. I ignore them via text if I have to or end calls. I left my sister's house just a week ago because they were trying to bring it up. They told me it was childish to run away from a serious discussion. I said we have nothing to discuss. My husband and I had a discussion on the name, and that was the only thing that needed to happen. They told me that a part of being a family is hearing each other out, and that I'm being childish by refusing their requests. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your family's argument about hearing each other out doesn't apply in this case because their concerns about the name aren't about your child's well-being but rather their personal tastes. You've already made it clear that the name is non-negotiable and they should respect that. Standing firm isn't childish. It's about maintaining autonomy over an important aspect of your life. I mean, you can name your kid whatever you want, but your parents had a point. It's not a kid's name, and it definitely makes me give you a side eye. In the UK, Sloane is short for Sloane Ranger, which is a slang term for an oblivious posh person. I guess it would sound similar to naming your child Preppy, so you're not the idiot in this specific question. But you are absolutely an idiot to your daughter for naming her that. It's the same as Rackley or Sunshine. Just ridiculous. Are you sure you're not related to OP's Wackado family? How can you even compare Sloane to a tragedy? It's a legit name and can be a kid's name like Anna, Elizabeth or Lily. OP Sloane is a cool name. It's uncommon for a girl and distinctive. Hey, you always remembered that girl from school, didn't you? Congratulations. Don't let your family bully you. I had my parents over for dinner this weekend, 60s, and after my daughter Tween asked if she could play us a song she'd been practicing on her keyboard. She gets lessons. It wasn't perfect with a few missed notes and a couple pauses, but she did really well. She ended up at the end with a massive smile and I started clapping, and my parents started freaking laughing. Not just a little chuckle. A massive freaking belly laugh. Them both. My mom asked if it was her first time playing it, and my dad said it had to have been. A dog could have played that better. It was like my daughter was shrinking on the spot, and she looked down and said, "No, I've had 2 lessons, but doing it with 2 hands is hard." And they just laughed even freaking harder. I just stood up, took their cups and said, "Leave." Now my mom tried to say about how they hadn't finished their drinks. They wanted to hear another song, etc. I said, "Get your stuff and get the heck out of my right now." My dad started doing this huffing thing he does when someone dares to speak up to him, and my mom said, "There was no need to be like this, but I can't protect her all the time and she's preparing my daughter for the real world." I said, "It's not teaching the real world. They're just nasty little bullies picking on children, and crap like this is why I was so messed up as a kid. Now, leave." They got their stuff and left. I sat with my daughter and explained how proud I was of her, and how well she was doing. To ignore them. They were just being cruel because they didn't know any other way to be. They asked if she could please play it again, which she did. On Sunday I messaged and said that we're taking a break away from them until they can behave like decent human beings. My dad replied that it was my choice, but he didn't realize he raised me to be so precious. Now, my lovely golden child of a sister is getting involved. She phoned me today with my parents' version of events, telling me I was a nasty piece of work and should never speak to my parents that way, that I'm wrapping my child in cotton wool and blah blah blah. I just told her to go screw herself and hung up. I'm not asking if I'm in the wrong for standing up for my daughter, I'll always do that, but I did go pretty 0 to 100. I kicked them out straight away. I swore at them and in front of my daughter. I did raise my voice at the end when I said leave. I was, and still am, angry. I don't think I'd even accept an apology from them at this point. This behavior isn't new. It's decades old. But this is the first time it affected my daughter. Did I go too far? React too much? Should I have tried to be calmer? Talk it out? I don't know. Am I the idiot for kicking my parents out? Who laughs in a young child's face when they're just starting to learn a new skill? Their actions were out of line and uncalled for. Not the idiot. You stood up for your daughter, protecting her from cruel, unnecessary comments. Your reaction was strong. But it's understandable, given your parents' long history of hurtful behavior. You're breaking the cycle and prioritizing your daughter's well-being. There's no need to tolerate that kind of treatment, especially when it impacts your child. Absolutely. I still remember getting a makeup set of 5 or 6. I went to town. Big spots of pink blush, blue eyeshadow, and red lipstick. Colored wax, basically. I wanted my makeup to be as pretty as my mom's. My parents laughed and asked if I was trying to be a clown. In their case, it wasn't intended to be malicious, and they apologized. But I didn't really like playing with the makeup anymore because I tried so hard, thought I looked beautiful, and got laughed at instead. I'm now almost 40 and still don't really like makeup. Thank you for being a safe haven for your child and showing them what love and acceptance look like. I've never understood the logic. The world is a mean enough place as it is. Why should our loved ones make it worse when they could make it better? My parents have made me the butt of jokes for more than 50 years. The only one who ever stood up for me was my late husband, and it made me feel so safe with him. Protect your baby girl. She's only this age once. I know 3 people who never need to darken your door again. They won't change. Don't let them come crawling back. You are just being the mama bear your daughter needs. Update. I'm a single dad. Also, thank you for all your comments. It definitely calmed the anger I felt and made me feel less bad about the way I reacted. I never doubted I was in the right to stand up for my daughter. That's just how I went about it. I will talk with my daughter about it all tomorrow, after school or on the weekend. My parents and sister can just disappear for all I care right now. To all the commenters who said they wish they had someone like me when they were younger, I get it, man. I really do. I hope you have someone now or can be that someone. Reading all these comments definitely changed my anger into sadness and realization that I'm not alone with the bad parents. Thanks for sharing. I, 28 male, had the most bizarre moment of my life yesterday. I married Tina, 29 female, last year. One time Tina and I were at home in the middle of the day. She realized she'd forgotten to put on deodorant in the morning, and that she'd been apologetic to me. I told her I liked her smell and I asked if she could sometimes skip deodorant when she was at home. She smiled and agreed. I work and Tina stays home. Last Sunday Tina and I were at home and her mother Victoria, 52 female, came over for a planned visit. Tina didn't realize she wasn't wearing deodorant until she hugged her mom. Victoria asked Tina why she was so stinky, and to my embarrassment, Tina told her the truth. Tina and Victoria have a type of relationship in which they talk openly about things. Tina immediately said, "Oops, she shouldn't have said that," after telling her mom. Her mom didn't seem fazed by it, so I thought it was just a passing embarrassing moment. Yesterday Victoria made an unannounced visit to my work during my lunch break. We talked in my office. Victoria said she was so disappointed in me and that I was not the man she thought I was. She said I degraded and objectified her daughter. She said I treated my wife like an animal. She said that I was definitely a misogynist. I just stood there and took it. I was so surprised I couldn't speak. I was just dazed for the rest of the day. Victoria and I always had a good relationship, and I was just floored that she could think that of me. Am I the idiot for degrading my wife by asking her not to wear deodorant at home? Not the idiot. I don't see how asking your wife not to cover up her natural scent is any different from asking that she wear a particular perfume. Honestly, your mother-in-law was out of line socially by mentioning how your wife smells in such a negative way. She was the one being degrading, not you. Mother-in-law is a genuine witch. She essentially infantilized Tina as if she couldn't make her own decisions. I think the real issue here is why your mother-in-law is showing up to your workplace unannounced. Now that's what I call degrading and inappropriate. You should talk with her about boundaries and privacy. Victoria needs to mind her own business. She needs to keep her nose out of it, as you are not being mean to your wife. Talk with your wife about what was said and that she might want to keep certain things between the two of you. Update. It turns out I didn't have to do anything. Victoria had talked to Tina and Tina's father, Warren, 54 male, about Victoria's concerns at Victoria's and Warren's home. Tina stood up for herself. Obviously, since I wasn't there with the 3 of them, there's going to be a lot of second-hand information from Tina. Victoria had told Tina and Warren all about what she told me. Tina had allowed Victoria to monologue everything she wanted to say. Tina told Victoria she wanted to not wear deodorant at home for her own pleasure too. Tina said I'm not a misogynist, and she wasn't being degraded. Warren was annoyed with his wife for meddling in Tina's marriage. Victoria stormed out. Tina had apologized to me for telling her mom about that no deodorant thing. I apologized to Tina for not telling her what her mom said to me. Tina said she thought her mom had changed from how she used to be before, which is why she'd been open with her about our private life. Tina said growing up she was, and still is, a very sweaty person with a high body odor. Apparently Victoria is a germophobe and a neat freak who is obsessed with hygiene and femininity. Tina said she used to feel disgusting about her body because of all the pressure her mom had put on her. Tina said she liked that she didn't have to be something she's not with me. Tina said that if anyone in this situation is a degrader, it's her mom. Tina said her mom is obsessed with a certain beauty standard. Tina reassured me that she doesn't feel degraded or objectified. She said our relationship is perfect, and that she's happy. She said she loved me and I told her that I love her too.